So I was recently talking with one of my coaching students, and we came across this idea that I think would be useful to you. You can just about apply it on any type of source. I've used a lot in live sound, and you can certainly use it during mixing as well. It's actually pretty simple. I'm going to show it to you on a few different sources today. Let's get started. So today I have a song called He Ran Back In. This is a song that I'm currently kind of in the middle of tracking and recording. Some of these takes are not, complete final takes, but the drums are pretty much, tracked in their final state. Let's check out this bridge, and then we'll dive into kind of the EQ idea. Okay, so that's kind of the vibe. And basically this idea is, it's fairly simple actually. So what you do, and this isn't about, taking a Pultec and, boosting like crazy. Let's find these guitars here. Okay, so I have the Pultec on there for flavor. This kind of tip today is actually about looking at the musical notes that are being played, and then basically mathematically just doubling that number. And so we're going to look for the harmonic of this guitar. So imagine that we want to sweeten this sound. We want to make it sound a little better, a little less muddy, just kind of make it a little sweeter, okay? Just kind of enhance it just a little bit. So what we're doing is we are boosting this fundamental. And that's just one example. We're going to get to bass, kick drum especially, and this technique might sound familiar just a little bit, but it's this idea of looking for the fundamental, and let's say we're at 120, okay? That's a nice even number. So then we're gonna go up to 240, and we're gonna just do a little cut at 240, okay? Just like that. And chances are, let me get rid of this thing, chances are is that there's probably information there at 240 if there's something down at 120, okay? Let's just have another listen here. Okay, so here's kind of the trick, is that this is your mud, and this is your low end. Okay, and that's kind of the low end boundary. So how much you want to bet this is a bunch of kind of weird sounding mud of that guitar? Yeah, so if you wanted to keep this guitar the full spectrum, we're not gonna try to squeeze it into a mix. Let's just say that this guitar is the most important thing. We want to make it as big as possible. Then, we're gonna do a little boost at 120, and then we'll do a little cut at 240. And that's gonna give us a really big sound. Now, obviously it's not just about the guitar, so this is just one example, and we'll leave this alone for now. Let's go find, let's check out the kick drum. Okay, so it's interesting here because I kind of want to say there's a fundamental at about 80, but it's honestly kind of hard to see it. So yeah, 80 is the fundamental. And again, if I were doing this by ear, which really is preferred, just go to that deepest note of the instrument that you're playing. If it's vocal, it's probably like 200. If it's guitar, you know, we saw there, it could be anywhere between 150, 200, whatever. Here on kick, it's 80, okay? So more about your ear than actually reading these waves. So, okay, we got 80. So then what we do is we double that number. So, you know, 2 times 8, 16. So we go to 160 and we reduce. How much you want to bet that's kind of the weird mud that kind of keeps our kick drums from really sounding good in the mix. We're trying to make it translate better, okay? Nobody really likes kick drum to actually sound like a kick drum because it literally just sounds like a box being slammed down on the ground, you know? It doesn't actually sound that deep in real life. So we're trying to make it bigger than life here. So we're focusing in on that fundamental, and then we're removing some of the distraction from the second harmonic here. You know, actually some detective work, if we think about it that way. You know, 125, it seems like this is really strong at 125, so I wonder if it's not at 55, the fundamental. Kind of working backwards here. Yeah, I don't really hear it so much. But the idea is that you counter the boost with a cut, okay? And I've done this on all sorts of like live vocals, just kind of some low end muddiness on the vocals, snare drum especially, floor tom, it's a really good one. Let's see here, where are we playing the floor tom? Kick it back at the start. Okay, so we have a fundamental right here at 80 again. So then we go up, we double that number to 160, give it a little reduction, just a little, okay? Yeah, so that's the stuff that makes it sound really weird. And honestly, you could just look for the fundamental. Here's kind of the advanced tip for you. You can look for just the fundamental, locate it, don't boost it, but instead you just reduce this second harmonic here, right? So you just double that number. So it's an octave up. And so what you're doing is you're getting this out of the way that tends to kind of cut a little better in the mix. It's almost like that kick drum at 100 tends to cut a lot more, like for a punk rock band, than like a kick drum tuned way low. And it just, you know, right at that 100 to 150, just stuff really cuts hard. So you get this area kind of out of the way, and this floor tom's going to sound deeper. So that's kind of a variation on this technique. You don't have to do the boost, but it's kind of the idea that you observe, you know, maybe you just kind of hunt around if you want to use your ears. That's cool. But you just observe where that fundamental is, double it, and then reduce a little bit of that mud. Okay, in the context of the mix. So yeah, that's it's really pretty widespread as far as like applying this to different things. You can do it to vocal. Let's try bass. Bass is another one because there's always some sort of kind of weirdness hanging out. Okay, so again, this isn't a final take on bass, but I'm building this track. So we have kind of a lower, a lower fundamental here, and I believe this would actually be the second, because if you look at these numbers, that low B string is like 30 something hertz. It's ridiculous. So each of these kind of landmarks along the way, maybe the 50 or the 100, or maybe like the 150 or the 200, they all happen in these kind of multiples, right? There's a rhyme and reason behind this stuff. And it's how the sound of the bass is structured. It's not just a sine tone, a sine wave. It's much more complex than that. So there's frequency and waves, basically combining on top of each other to kind of create this more complex sound of the jazz bass. So, we could shape this. We could go, okay, let's maybe do the fundamental and then the second, and then maybe we'll try the second and the third. So, that's kind of working, but it's really not. It's just not useful. So what we're going to do is we will adapt this technique and go to the second versus the third. Okay, so it's a balance of the second and the third harmonic. Yep, and that still works. So if we're at let's see here, 65, then we'll be at 130 for that technical, octave up, technically the second harmonic. But in the mix, it sounds actually quite good because this is going to sit above the kick drum. So let's get this balance here. Okay, and now just let's actually have a listen to this here. Yeah, that's just junk, I don't want to hear that in the bass. That's just weird. So, yeah, this is definitely kind of the spot, right? So we can kind of sweeten it by adding a little boost here, or we can cut the junk, and it's an octave up. You just double that number. Okay? So again, like totally different sources here, but it still applies. Now, this obviously is not an original idea because, we do this all the time actually with like a Pultec. Not that one. We're going to try this one. And, if you think about what's going on here, we have a boost and we have a cut. And if you look at the graph of what this is doing, it's pretty much doing what we've been doing manually. So I'll go back and I'll actually let's change this to the Pultec low shelf. And what we're going to do is boost, and then we're going to cut And look at that. So we've been doing this for a long time. And the idea, obviously you could sweep this frequency, which is really handy, but you can just set this right at the sweet spot between the note you want to sweeten and the note that kind of adds a bunch of crap and confusion to the signal, which is kind of that weird thing at 200. Yeah, it's crazy how much a Pultec actually does. I mean, if you pull up like Plugin Doctor, you load in some Pultec emulations, you would be, it would just blow you away how much of a boost and just it shifts around the frequencies. Stuff you'd never do, drawing it out like this. So it does seem aggressive here, but when you do it in the context of a classic unit designed for color, I think it's totally cool, okay? You can always just kind of split the difference. Maybe don't go all the way with things, but yeah, it's going to look more aggressive because it's emulating a traditional unit. So yeah, that is really the technique, is locate the fundamental, double that number, and then see if that's a distraction. If you got some at 100, look for the 200. Maybe reduce that. Or maybe boost the 100. So, yeah. Hope this was useful to you. Talk to you soon.